So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. We're glad to be hosting Diane. So my name is Felicia Odumosu, founder Talent Bureau Limited. I welcome everyone to our Employability webinar series. The topic for today is 2021, are you still ready for me? So our featured presenter, Diane, it's actually 7 a.m. her time. So Diane, we appreciate you for coming in so early based on your time.
It doesn't matter, early's good for me.
So she brings in more than 25 years of career experience, and she's worked with different organizations. She's a career development expert, career management expert. She's got executive search experience. She's a leadership development coach, and I'm excited to have her join us in this meeting today. So welcome everyone for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful time.
All right, can I share my screen and get started? Oh,
yes, please.
You have to go ahead and give me host.
Yes, you can share your screen.
I just need to have the host and then I can share.
Okay.
Still, that's okay. That's all right. We're good. I got my coffee. We're good.
Okay. So Diane, you're the host now.
I am the host. All right, there we go. No, it says host has disabled screen. Oh, there we go. Let me see. It might be a little bit of a lag. There we are. That's okay. Where is my PowerPoint? After all that, I've been working on it this morning, so it's right there, but let me get it back up with you. One moment, please. A bit of a technical difficulty, but we got it. Don't worry.
Are you good?
In Atlanta this morning, it is 6 a.m., but don't worry. We've got this. It doesn't matter wherever we are. 2021, are you ready for me? I think when I met Felicia a while ago, and one of the last sessions that I met her in, we talked about the stress of 2021, because it's still very stressful for all of us. COVID, Miss Rona, however you want to name what's happening to all of us, has changed our world tremendously. But many of us still want to move forward in our careers, want to figure out, what do I do as my next? So I challenge you, 2021, are you ready for me? Let's move onward. Soon, I hope we'll forget a mask, but it looks like it'll be a while for us to move onward. But what's happening has not just happened in your country. It has not just happened in your community. It's happened across the world. And so I just remind folks to keep a perspective of, this has changed the world of work for everyone. And I'm going to give you some ideas today that I hope get you thinking about how you can change your world moving forward. So this is your moment. Your moment starts now, but your moment needs activity. So often people say, I'm ready, I'm going, I'm doing it, but then they do nothing. So to start your moment, you've got to have activity behind you. There's got to be movement, and it's got to be your movement. So I always say, this is your moment, but I also need movement in your moment. A big shout out to start this morning, Karen Hunt, who's another leadership advisor and a career consultant as well. She does a lot with strategy. She came up with 6 sixes, and I really, really like them. And so I borrowed some and added some of my own, just to help you kind of gain some perspective on, what do you do and how do you start tackling this job search or reinventing yourself after losing your job through COVID. The first one, and always an important one, is finding some clarity. And right now it's hard to find clarity. Honestly, everyone goes, honestly, this is scary. It is scary because it's so different. But clarity, you need your own clarity. What's important to you? What have you been working toward? How do you, maybe at the moment, take a side step instead of a step up as you expected? One of my great colleagues wrote his dissertation on what career pathing looks like. And a big shout out to Jason when he said, it's really rock climbing. It is, you start here, but then you might come left, but then you might go right, and then you might go up, but maybe there's some jigs and jags sideways in between. That's all right. But clarity is so important. You want to keep a sense of clarity of what do you want? What's your end goal? And how does a job in between fit that clarity, fit that movement moving forward? Clarity is hard and you need to keep revisiting this, but it's so important to start here. Commitment, back to my opening. Commitment is an act, not a word. So many times folks will tell me, I'm committed to doing this, but I see no action. Without action, commitment doesn't go anywhere. It can't be all talk. And when I coach folks and say, who have you been talking to? What have you been doing? I've left messages for people and no one's responded. I followed up, but I've heard nothing. So they blame it on everyone else and they don't take ownership of contacting someone back again. And I think the biggest frustration for so many is I'm so worn out, I can't act anymore. And I promise you, you'll look different if you do continue acting. And if you do reach back again and say, after our second interview, I really was impressed with your community, really impressed with your business, your model, your commitment to your teams. I'm disappointed I haven't heard back from you. I remain committed to your opportunity and hope there can be a place for me in your organization moving forward. That at least shows that you're committed to what you saw. But so often people step back going, I haven't heard anything, so therefore nothing's happening. Or no one's calling me back, so I'm not acting. Your commitment to your job search is your commitment, and it can't be in word only. It must be in action indeed. Connection. This is the magic. This is the secret sauce. Everyone needs to connect with more people because it's connections that help us meet the next. I always encourage folks to do career conversations with folks that have the job they want or work at an industry they're interested in. And if you've got a great story and you can connect the dots as to why you are looking for your next or this or that, and you roll out a great story to someone who's a connection that you didn't know before the call, before the video call, before the phone call, wow, they might say, I'm really impressed with what I heard. I don't have anything, but I've got a colleague who you might need to talk to. That is the magic of connections. We can't do this alone. We connect, we find our next work through people, but most are afraid to connect. As Felicia's heard me say, everyone says, no one will, how do we do this now? We're all virtual. We're not meeting. We're not going to offices. We're not having coffees. Reach out to folks. People have different time, as many are not going back to their office. Different time. My commute is a whole lot faster anymore because I've continued to work from home. So with that, I have a little bit more time and I figure out how I use it. And when folks connect with me on LinkedIn and say, I'd like a connection to so-and-so that you're connected to, I will do that. And I will try to be generous with my connections. And I promise I am not alone with those connection points. So this is a contact sport. You've got to meet people and connections matter. Connections will help you get to the next or help you meet someone that you keep up with along your career pathing. Keep in mind, moving forward, you will have many more careers than you look to your mentors and sponsors and champions. Those of us in an older age set, and I'm putting myself in that category, you're going to have double the opportunities we did. That scares some. That means you'll probably be changing more. But with that, the importance of connection remains. So don't forget connection. And within connection, I do want to do a bit on LinkedIn. Please, if you're connecting with someone through LinkedIn, don't use the default that they've permitted you to connect. Because what it says to me is, I just want more people in my connections. I don't know you. I just need you. Connect. What I'd rather you say is, here's how I met you. Here's why I'd like to connect. Might we connect? Rather have a personal message. In fact, when I get generic messages, I do not. And many are connecting with me because they want to sell me something. I'm not interested in that either. I appreciate when people come in and tell me exactly what they're trying to sell me, because sometimes I'm not interested in what they're selling. So I opt to not to connect with them because I don't care to be in their sales pool. That's not what I'm looking for. So connections matter. And please, if you're using LinkedIn, which I absolutely think is one of the best tools out there, make sure it's a personal connection to someone. In this job search, remain curious. I absolutely love this picture of this little guy trying to get over the fence and see what's happening over there. Remain curious. As you're talking to an organization and you know they just hit the press for having an exceptional start to 2021, talk about that. Help open and help start curious conversations. It is critical. It makes you much more interesting. And people are like, how do you do that? Do your homework. Never take a meeting with anyone without doing your homework about them on LinkedIn. Where are they? What have they been doing? Many say, I can't find any information about someone on their webpage, their company webpage. Many keep it private. So with that privacy, use LinkedIn instead. Figuring out, do you share a degree? Do you share an institution that you both attended? Do you share some interests? You might ask them about their backdrop picture to LinkedIn, and you say, help me know, where is that picture? Why is that a part of your LinkedIn profile? Let's start curious conversations. Curiosity starts a conversation, not a yes or no question and answer session. Curiosity, never forget it. Another one of the C's. And Albert Einstein, this quote for him is wonderful. He says, I'm neither clever nor exceptionally gifted. I'm only very, very curious. The gentleman was brilliant, but he was so humble, very, very curious. Just don't ever forget that. It's such a great quote. Right now, everyone's at a capacity issue. And I really loved my little beakers here. Some of you are full on ready, full on green. I'm recharged, I'm ready to go. And I applaud those people who feel that way, because I don't think everyone does. In the middle of job search process, you've got to have capacity to do this. Those of you who are yellow saying, I'm almost there, I'm getting there, I'm getting some traction, I'm starting to feel more confident. Then I've got people that are in the red saying, I'm not there, not my place. And I have folks that are totally empty. If you're totally empty in your capacity, you are not going to represent yourself well in the job search process. So my challenge to you, if your capacity is at zero, how do you start with refilling this beaker first? Because you'll come off as your best self with something in reserve. You know, talking to folks who are in the middle of dealing with family issues, losing loved ones to COVID, losing their job, they're angry, they're bitter, and they need to work through all of that, because that'll come out in the job search process. But instead say, this has been a tough year for me on so many fronts, and helping someone know how you've worked through it. And I'm definitely an advocate of someone finding help if their capacity has absolutely depleted, because it's hard to rebuild this. You can go to the gas station, but you can only put so much in the tank. And then when it's gone, your car is on the side of the road without anything. And that's how I feel like many are right now. Please know that that's not a good place to start a job search, because someone in a new role wants all of you. And I always say they probably want you and 150% of your energy. So how can you give 150% when you're at zero already? So pay attention to what your capacity is and work toward building some of that capacity. As I was telling Felicia this morning, I was already out for a walk, because that's where and how I try to refill that tank. Getting out every morning, getting some fresh air, and also delivering some newspapers for some elderly people in my community. I take them from the end of their driveway to their front door. That helps build my capacity. This is one of my ads, course correction. And so many have gotten so frustrated with what's happened post-COVID, because opportunities they've always wanted are now gone. And many who've wanted to work in the hospitality industry saying, what does this mean? What does this look like moving forward? I do think this is a time for some course correction. The next opportunity might not be your dream job. How do you course correct and do something else? Back to my rock climbing analogy earlier. How do you sidestep, get into another industry, showcase how you can translate those skill sets to a new role and never forgetting what you want to do eventually, but given the times, given what's happened to our world, how do you course correct? And so many folks, they come to me frustrated saying, I've sent 150 applications, I've heard from no one. And I said, all right, when's the last time you looked at your materials? What are you sending? Who's reviewed your materials?
I don't have a
material issue. It could be that something you're sending is incorrect. So how do we course correct? And how do we change our, if you're sending the same stuff, there's a wonderful quote, doing the same thing leads to the same results. That's a definition of not being too smart. Let's make sure we do course correct appropriately. And this is a time for us to learn how to course correct. Again, this did not happen to just you, just your community, just your state, just your country. It's happened to the world. All of us need to think about course correction. This is hard work because it's not what we thought we would be doing in 2021. Nobody ever thought they were going to be, partying like it was 2019 like it was before, but everyone's wishing that we could bring 2019 back at least. We got to think of how we course correct. Oprah, I gotta love her. This is your moment, own it. You've got to own 2021. You've got to do something with it because without your action, it won't work. This is my own quote. The minimum will never produce the maximum, and everyone wants to do just this to get that. And I never have seen it work. It might, one time you might sneak by and squeak by and it might work, but everyone wants to do the minimum expecting the maximum. In the US, we have a wonderful store. It's a Staples store, and it is a office supply store. And they have a really nice campaign about the easy buttons. Shopping at Staples is easy. I always say the only easy button is available in the middle of the Staples store. It works nowhere else. This work is not easy work. This work is tough work, but it's your work. It is your work, and you need to do that. So if you can think it, you can ink it. I do believe it. If you know where you want to go, you can make it happen, but it takes you doing the work. My contact information is here. Felicia, I'm going to turn that over, stop my share screen, and see if we can move it to some Q&A.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dan. I'm sure there are lots of questions. So please feel free, type in your question, career-related questions, job hunting questions, LinkedIn-related questions. Dan promised to take us through the 7 deadly sins of LinkedIn. We still have that request pending, and I still have the document you shared with us the last time. I'm going to send to everyone after this webinar.
There we go.
With them. So if you have questions,
do not commit any of those 7 sins, if I can not remind people. The 7 sins are things you don't want to do, and they're the 7 mistakes I see often folks making in LinkedIn. They are not, fully using that resource. So again, that is things not to commit. I am a Catholic school girl gone bad, as I say. So I love my 7. It's a wonderful place to say the 7 deadly sins. Okay. I'd love to hear from you. Questions. Do not be shy. If you're thinking it, someone else is as well.
So please type in your questions, related questions that regards LinkedIn, how to power up your LinkedIn profile. Diane is here now. She's an expert with 25 years of experience with leadership development, career coaching. She also facilitates for SHRM, Society for Human Resources, and she's an expert in this area. That's why she's here.
You would love to know the 7 deadly sins, and I promise we're going to send the handout, and I promise one more workshop for this group to go through the 7 deadly sins. But I will remind some quick reminders. make sure with your LinkedIn profile, there's a wonderful picture of you, a wonderful headshot of you in your LinkedIn profile, and the picture behind your picture. Do not forget that that's yours to change. So many leave it to the default. Before it looked like a galaxy of stars, now it looks like these 3 shaded blue things behind your picture. Find a picture that you like, that speaks to you, that you can stand behind, and post that picture, or post a quote that you like. I want something to make somebody interesting. That's what I'm going for with that picture. And I met someone who wanted to work within international business at one time. And she had as her picture, this beautiful picture of 2 open hands with globes painted on them. I thought, what a beautiful picture to represent international. It was such a beautiful picture. I said, wow, wonderful. My picture is of the Oregon coast. I live in Atlanta. And many people, when I do presentations, going, where is that? It's the Oregon coast. My brother lives in Portland and has a home on the coast. And the Oregon coast looks nothing like the East Coast and our ocean side. And so I've always appreciated the differences of the other coast of our country. And so that is why I have that out there. And so people always say, oh my gosh, what's that? Do you have tips for someone who's finding it difficult to commit to a routine? Well, you've got to figure that out. You have to know your own routine. Everyone says, give me your prescription of your routine. My routine wouldn't work for most. I get up at 4 a.m. every morning. I do a quick email and a quick review of everything. I get this much news because I find the news a bit difficult these days. So I get only, just that much. That's it. And I get that at 4 a.m. Then I get my walking clothes on, walk a half hour, power walk, 30 heart minutes. Then I come home, change into my swimsuit and go to the pool and do 1 hour of water aerobics. Then I meet my first person at 8 a.m. for an appointment. And I'm made up already like this by 8 a.m. And I've already done my exercise because I know it won't be carved out in the middle of my day. I put in my day. This is so important. I make myself a lunch break every day where there's 1 hour off, and I give myself an afternoon break. There is 1 hour off so I can breathe. I can't give people if my tank is empty. So I force myself to 2 breaks in my day. Those are non-negotiable. People ask for a meeting in that time, and I say, as you notice from my calendar, it's marked busy. No, it is non-negotiable because if someone takes that time, then I don't have it. So that for me is it. And I have a hard cutoff every night to turn off the computer and be done.
Thank you so much, Diane. Someone asked a question sometime last week that is it okay to put your passport photograph or whatever picture on your CV? I'd like you to address that question.
Oh, no. So the only place a picture belongs is within your LinkedIn profile. It does not belong on your CV. The only place a picture belongs is on your LinkedIn profile. That's the world according to Diane. I don't find that is helpful on a CV. The other thing you have to remember is most organizations use artificial intelligence to review your resume. So in the case of artificial intelligence, there are many different resume templates that have columns. Artificial intelligence doesn't know how to read a column. It reads from left to right. So all of a sudden your column starts off with skills and then it finishes off with education. So it says leadership and then it gives your degree. Wait a second, what does that mean? So artificial intelligence does not like those templates. So I encourage people to create a much easier resume to review if you're submitting it using an ATS system, applicant tracking system for an organization. Because you want to be in the pile that makes the cut, not on the floor that did not make the cut. And let's be honest and candid with this one, a lot of technology and robots read your materials long before a person does. And they sort and say, keyword searches are not a part of this. So verify that your keywords are a part of your resume document. And within LinkedIn, your keywords need to be in now the newly named about section. It used to be summary. keywords need to be within that about section.
So there's another question.
Go ahead and throw the questions to me that are in the chat. Okay. That'd be helpful.
So what will your advice be to someone that has issues with clearly defining personal or career goals?
Personally defining moves, career moves. That's your story.
Career goals.
Career goals. So that's your story. And so I always tell people, I always point to the head when we start with the story. When you're looking at yourself, you have to stand back and look at your resume and say, why would an employer hire me? So you've got to look at your past experience, where you want to go, and you've got to craft it in a story. And your story's got to be so good and so well developed up here that you can roll it out for me to understand. That's inspiring me to hire you. And so what I want to hear in people's career story is a great story. Some will say, I just need a job. That's not a career story. And some people right now are so defeated. I've lost my work. I need work. That's not a story. But if you say, prior to losing my work in COVID, I did the following, and I'd like to translate those skills into this. Here's where I think I could add value to your new company. I'm going to hear that, but I'm not going to hear, I lost my job, I just need one. No, that's not enough. I need you to connect the dots for me. And so often folks expect the recruiter to make up the story for you. They can't. You've got to tell your own story and tell it the way you want it to be told.
Thank you so much, Diane. There was a question that someone said, what is your most practical advice to me on how to juggle both my career and business aspirations? I'm currently job searching, but trying to start up my own business because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Okay, an entrepreneur at heart, love that. So most entrepreneurs I know do that on the side. That's their side hustle. Because until you make enough money, you can't do that full time. And so that's what's hard. You have to work this side hustle and your full-time job because you need to build some revenue and capital because you're going to need that in your side business. That one's never an easy. Everyone's like, I want an easy button on that one. There's not an easy button there because you've got to build this side business. And until you build it, you can't launch it. I met a colleague about 5 years ago, and she had 2 young sons who had terrible allergies to nuts. Terrible allergies to gluten. And so she created a company in the US called Nut Crumbs so that you could bread things and not use flour-based products. And she seasoned these breadcrumbs. And I always joke when I met her, we both went to Miami of Ohio as one of our degree spots. And so we said, bright women all went to Miami. So we always joke about it. But she is 4 years in and now all in and has had the best start of a year in 2021, believe it or not. But she said, thank goodness people are cooking at home because that's even allowed me to do even better. And her business after 4 years is finally at a spot where she's thinking about leaving her full-time job. She said, this is not an easy battle. This is not a quick thing. This is a long-term process. And she said, Diane, I didn't think it was going to take 4 years, but I'm graced that COVID helped my business more than I ever could have imagined because people are cooking. Who knew? But everyone wants an easy answer on that one. So for anyone who wants to be their own entrepreneur and wants to start their own business, you need capital. And so many people will say to me, I've saved $10,000. I'm like, oh, that's going to go fast. Don't worry. That first month is gone. So you've got to save a lot more money than you think to make your business really take off. And your business has to bring in enough revenue to say, I can now do that only. Okay. Taiwo Hassan, I'm going to unmute you. Would you like to say something? I can see your hand raised. So you can unmute yourself and then say what you want to say. Taiwo Hassan.
I think you already asked this question in the chat box.
The question I think is in the chat box.
Okay then, all right. So there's another question. Someone says, I just started an HR consulting business here in Nigeria. What do you have for me to position myself and attract clients in a very competitive market?
What do you do differently than anybody else? When everyone's trying to attract new business, I always say, what's your value proposition? Much like what's your value proposition being hired, what do you do differently than anyone else? So if you got to stand out differently, what do you do differently? Because everyone wants to attract good customers. Great. But what do you do differently? Why should I come to you? And many already have a relationship with another vendor, with another provider, with another partner. Why should they switch from that relationship to you? You've got to think about that question. And right now, some people are having the mindset, we need to do things so differently, and our current vendor is giving us the same old stuff. Might be a great time to say, what do you do differently? And how do you help them understand your difference, your uniqueness? Because that's what it's really all about.
Okay, there's another question. How do you break into director general management level from the senior manager level? For example, a regional sales manager wanting to become head of sales or sales director. How do you break through?
So this is a great question. How do you break from one level to a next level? So you're a director level, you want to get to a VP level. How do you break in? Some of that's you, and some of that, who is your sponsor, who is your champion, who are your mentors. Those three people are going to help you tremendously in the break. What you've got to do is have conversations with people around your agency and say, I'd like to raise my hand. Give me some feedback. I'd like to raise my hand to move into the next role. I want some feedback from you if you see that as doable and obtainable. What are my blind spots? What are my gaps? What do I need? But you need to have others in the agency who say, wait a second, you need Felicia, we're not talking about Felicia. And many do not understand the importance of mentors, sponsors, and champions. And it is so important that in board meetings or in senior leadership meetings that you do not attend. You need your senior leaders talking about you when you're not in the meeting to say, you know, Felicia hasn't been promoted lately. I think she's really talented. Why are we not looking internally to Felicia as potential for this role? You need someone talking about you when you're not in the room and saying good things, not bad things, just to promote you and say, you know, I just don't know enough about her work, but has anybody ever talked to her about what her next is? Has anyone discussed with her what she'd like to do as her next role within this organization? She's promoted her teams better than anyone else. So I think she's got what we're looking for in leadership. And as you know, a lot of her teams have been promoted outside of our agency because there's not been spots here, but she has been so open and honest with her teams about how to get promoted. But we never look at her, and she's doing such a good job of bringing her teams forward. That's so important. Mentors, champions, and sponsors, they've got to help you when you get to that level. Can't just be you.
Thank you, Diane. There's another question. How can you manage human beings with different views and different options to achieve a successful team as a leader?
How do you manage different teams? Every one of us brings a lot of difference in. How do you get to know your team? How do you understand? How do you have developments that you start meeting your team? Someone connected with me earlier this week and said, how do I reconnect with my teams? We're going to be virtual right now through the end of 2021. I need a restart on my virtual. And they said, give me some ideas. What can we do? And I said, all right, what do you usually do? And they're like, we have a Zoom meeting every Monday. We have a little, huddle call every Monday. What else do you do? That's it. We do business. That's all. Cameras on or off? Cameras are usually off because it's Monday morning and they're not ready. I'm like, all right. So you set a meeting where you are going to purposefully reconnect people. And maybe you do something silly as a part of it to get it started. Maybe a bingo card with bingo squares about things that are in their personal and business life. And how do you use that and have some fun with that across your team? How do you reconnect your team and say, I need to give you an update of where we are? We're now down for the next few months. So right now we're going into the third month of this year. That means 9 more months. We could have a baby in the time we're going to get back together. That's a long time. And you ask your team, what do you want from me? What do we need to do differently? And you say to your team candidly, we get together and we're not connecting. Everybody's on the call, cameras off. The 3 components of communication are the word, 7%, the tone, 38%, but more importantly, 55% is body language. I don't have the benefit of your body language when I don't have your camera. And again, a restart on your team. How do you bring them back? And you say, how can we move forward? How can we do this better? Because we know we're going to be in a remote environment the next 9 months. Just, how do you connect back with your team? What do you need from me? How do you make and do individual appointments as well? Because almost everyone's trying to do everything as efficiently as possible. Let's do a huddle. Well, but what if I have to talk to you sidebar, one-on-one? What do you need? And when's the last time you commended any one of your team for doing something right? A little bit of positive reinforcement and positive feedback goes a long way. Last week, they turned in a beautiful report and you didn't say anything. You just expected. How do you go back this week and say, wow, last week's report, one of your best ever written. Thank you for the time on that. Thank you for the time you devoted to it. And thanks for also handing it in to me early. Really appreciate that. How do you reconnect with your team? That's my challenge when people are saying, we all have lots of differences, lots of diversity. But how do we come together? What's the common goal? Go ahead, Alicia, what else you got?
Thank you, Diane. I'd really like to make an announcement. For those who are just joining us, a friendly reminder, this session is recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel for those who've missed a bit of it. And then we've got a quick questionnaire that will be posted in the chat box, just a form of feedback. So please take time to fill it out. Someone said, a friend of mine is working in a reputable company and making good money, but he's feeling burnt out and not fulfilled. He's torn between quitting and restructuring his life or sticking it out. What would you advise him to do?
Tough. That's, again, back to my, where's your tank? If your tank is empty, how do you refill your tank? And I think you've got to do some serious soul searching. If you're feeling burnt out in your role, why are you feeling burnt out? And you've got to have some private time and some real deep thinking time to figure out, why am I feeling this burnout? Why am I feeling that I'm not making a contribution? Why am I feeling like this is not right anymore? When people have great jobs, everyone assumes great jobs, great money is the end and be all, but usually there's something else that people are missing. What the data is supporting that through COVID, people are working more hours than ever before. That's not good either, because then we're not truly giving ourselves the rest we need between day 1 and day 2. Everyone says, I'm just going to quit this and find something else. I don't know that this is a good time in the time that we're in 2021. If you've got a great job, I don't know that I would quit that right now, because chances are that seat won't be there again. So you got to think long and hard. Are you willing to give it all up? And again, as a part of your story, you're going to have to explain why you gave it up. And if you say, I got burnt out, understand you own part of that. So many people blame the company for burnout, but they've got to take some on themselves because you allowed it to happen. So when people say, the company burned me out, like, no, you both come in with some of that responsibility. The company has some, but you have some as well. You've got to put barriers up. You've got to say, these are the landmarks. With my team, I've always said, here's how we communicate. And, again, just a simple way so that people don't burn out. I respect your nights and weekends. I respect your downtime. So if you're hearing from me after hours, it's probably a sense of emergency about something we have to deal with tomorrow in our workday. So if you hear from me via phone or text, that's elevated, that's an emergency. If you're hearing from me in an email, there's no emergency to that. But I respect your downtime. I respect your nights and weekends with your family and your friends. I respect your recharge time. But some in COVID, they're saying, goodness, my manager's emailing me and expecting me to email at 8:30 at night. Have a conversation. I'm not resting well. And again, you heard my schedule. I have a hard deadline. People are like, you didn't respond. I emailed you last night. That's right. My computer's already off. And once my computer's off, I don't do anymore. That's it. The end. The end is how I say it. No, and students are like, wait, or people say, what? If I'm working with California folks, it's really tough for me because that's a 3-hour time difference. So if I'm working with a client who's California, I've got to keep that computer open till at least 8 o'clock. And usually they want it open till at least 9 o'clock. That's getting late in my day though, because I start at 4 a.m. So again, I put barriers on when it gets shut down and why. Burnout's a tough one.
Thank you, Diane. There's one question. What do you have to say to a situation where one is open to multiple career options in the same field, for instance, hospitality, juxtaposing it with the point and on clarity? So how does someone handle multiple career options? How does someone handle multiple career options?
So hospitality and what else are they bucketing with that?
You just said juxtaposing it with a point on clarity.
So again, back to your story. When someone says, and the recruiters will often say, where else are you looking for work? And you might say, I'm looking in the hospitality space. However, the hospitality space right now is suffering because of COVID. So I'm expanding my reach to also posting, looking at opportunities within retail, or helping them understand that I'm broadening this because the hospitality space is not there right now. That's how I would help people understand that you're looking at multiple. And most good recruiters are going to say, who else are you speaking with about opportunities? Who else are you talking to? Because they want a sense of, are you all over the board with no themes, or are you really theming your career search?
Okay. So I think that's all the questions we have for now. And we'll be wrapping up. So Diane, I don't know if you have any form of advice for anyone, who would be interested in this. They may be watching online afterwards. What advice do you have?
This is your story, as that always is my advice. And I say to folks, really, really think through what's your story? How do you position yourself? And you've got to give this some good thought. This doesn't just come. And what are you doing? Where are you finding your reflective time? Because we all need it. We all need time where we're thinking about nothing else. And you've really got to focus on, all right, what's important to me? And I think our past jobs tell us a lot. And think about the work you've done prior that you've loved. Was it the work you loved? Or was it the team that you loved? Was it the manager that you really respected? Because so often, everyone goes back to, it was the work I loved. And I challenge folks saying, was it the work? Was it the team? Was it the manager? Because some people hate the work, but they really like the manager. They really like their supervisor. They really like their leadership. Hone in on what's been important. Where have you seen success? And don't say one industry is off the books because you've had a terrible experience, because chances are it's not the industry, but it's one of those other factors. And I wish everybody one fabulous manager, supervisor, leader in their lifetime. I wish everybody at least one. Some have never had the first one. That's hard for me. I've had some gracious, wonderful leaders across my world. And that's really helped me develop to who I am. And if you don't have that leader, what else are you doing? How do you find the right person? And it might not be within your organization. It might be somewhere else. champions, mentors, sponsors. You'll never do this work alone. What else do you need?
I think that's all for now. So Diane, please, I'm sure lots of them will be reaching out to you on LinkedIn. I'm sure, don't worry, nobody's going to bombard you with emails or messages. It'll just be, questions, guidance based on your 25 years of experience on how they can navigate or pivot to whatever career that they're planning, or how they can also change their trajectory if that is necessary. So please feel free to reach out to Diane. We're here for you. We're here to help. So we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we are on YouTube. So the video will be available after the session. We'll email it to everyone, and then we'll also email the 7 deadly sins, as Diane has promised. I'll email it to you personally. I have the document. So feel free, reach out to us. Our numbers are on the screen. Email us if you have to. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you so much, Diane, for your time and for always answering our call when we reach out to you. Thank you.
Very good. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. No, I love that someone said, thank you for your energy. And I'm like, and here we are, 6:47. Let's go. I'm going to go finish my walk now.
All right, then. Have a lovely day and enjoy your weekend, Diane.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.